Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on a Wednesday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. 2 hours to play with. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. Hope everyone had a good Sports Tuesday and you are enjoying your 10th of December, 2025. As always, get social with us. Hashtag On Cue, as we like to dub it. You can also stay connected on social media at Rich Q on Q on X, IG, and of course TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. Coming at you on SR 1029 FM, The Game, part of the Coastal Sports Digital Network. Download the Odyssey app right now and search Coastal Sports Digital Network. As we like to say on a Wednesday, yeah, we do try to get over the hump, but Wednesday is a Woosah Wednesday for those that have been new to the show over the last uh, several weeks, days, months. And it's pretty much a day where we try to have a peaceful 2 hours on the air. Now, that doesn't necessarily happen. So a lot of times, it probably is advantageous for the listeners, the commenters, the guys that like to engage to not disrupt my mental state, because a Woosah Wednesday is basically how long you guys it takes for you to get under my skin. And then it's a breaking point. So we'll see how it plays out on this Wednesday, but a lot to get into. Kosko, we love our savings. Why not? Holidays right around the corner. Kosko is going to join us in about 15-20. We'll talk some college football with him, get into a little Notre Dame, a little Penn State, some NFL, well, a lot of NFL we want to dive into. But how about this baseball, right? Hot stove baseball. Yeah, Schwarber signing the monster deal with the Mets. I'm sorry, with the Phillies. Pardon me, with the Phillies. No pun intended. Sorry, Met fans. I'll get to you right now. Schwarber to the Phillies, back with the Phillies. Diaz spurning the Mets, going to the Dodgers. Now, if that's not bad enough, I mean, think about it. You got the New York Mets president of ops, David Stearns, basically saying after they signed Williams that it's going to impact Diaz. So what happens? He turns around and he inks a contract with the Dodgers on Tuesday. And then earlier today, I mean, kind of like the bombshell, if you are just a fan of the Mets and have followed the franchise over the last several years, Pete Alonso, the polar bear, decides, you know what? We're going to plunge somewhere else, and we're going to call Baltimore our home. How about this? 5 years, $1.55. That deal is done. Heyman, Passan, they're all reporting it. So he wasn't able to get a long-term deal done with the Mets, and he made $30 million with the Mets in 2025. And listen, it was, if you're a Mets fan, he's worth every single solitary penny. I mean, think about that. They don't have him even during that slide, and they're losing 83 games. I mean, you're talking about an all-time great Met, and the Met fan today has to be beside themselves. They really do. They have to be beside themselves, because I'm telling you right now, man, that is a monster, 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 monster contract. It is a monster deal for Alonso. And again, Baltimore knows this. Baltimore understands that you are not paying Pete Alonso for his glove or his defense. We know he's a liability. But the numbers last year were gaudy. You're paying for the bat, not the glove. We know that. But this is a crusher, man, for the Mets. You got an all-time leader in home runs, a guy who probably is going to have his number retired one day. And this is the difference between baseball and other sports. And I'm going to tell you why. Because in the NFL, you got to call for what it is. You guys cheer the front of the uniform, not the back of the uniform. Same thing really in the NBA. In baseball, I think it's different. I think the players, yeah, their salaries are astronomical. Their salaries are absolutely just insane and ridiculous. And more times than not, they never play the life of these long contracts. Pujols, Rodriguez, the like. You look at Ohtani's numbers, you look at his contract, but he's an all-time great. There is more of an appeal and engagement with the fan base because the players are more recognizable. So now you got a franchise that has a billionaire owner in Cohen, and you're trying to sell the fan base around that stadium and that are just beloved Met fans that we're building upon franchise players that we know have an attraction and appeal to the fan base. And now you let him walk. I mean, good for him. He got his money. And as I mentioned, man, he's coming off a monster season, 38 ribbies, 38 home runs, 272, 347, 524, played in all 162 games. But that's baseball. And now everyone thinks because of the way these salaries are coming down in baseball that a lockout is inevitable. But you have a 31-year-old slugger, one of the biggest free agents in this offseason. And listen, opts out of the contract following the World Series. And this is kind of like the dicey game you play in baseball because it was the second consecutive all season that you allow Alonso to hit the market. And again, he didn't sit down with the Mets front office until February. And that's when they came to terms on the 2-year, $54 million deal that included an opt out for 2026. So, listen, you lose, obviously, you lose Diaz, you lose Alonso. You look at the landscape of the NL East, which is very different going forward. You look at the landscape of the NL, sluggers are getting paid, teams are loading up. I like the move by the Philadelphia Phillies. I thought it was a smart move. I never thought Schwarber was going to sign anywhere else. But listen, there are a lot of other names out there that, again, you'd be surprised what's going to happen over the next week or two or three. I mean, here's the other thing. You look at, if you're a fan of Baltimore, and we do have some Baltimore Delawarean listeners that follow and are fans of the O's. If you're a fan of the O's, and we used to air them on 1290 The Ticket back in the day, I mean, their lineup: Gunnar Henderson, Alonso, Westberg, Taylor Ward, Holiday, Colton Cowser. I mean, listen, they're going to be right there in the AL East offensively. They're going to be right there in the AL East. And the misconception, too, with Alonso that I think a lot of Met fans are not really kind of understanding, the Mets never really made a formal offer to him. And then you get the bidding war. And I also think this is a president of baseball operations and Stearns is basically saying, you know what? I don't care about sentiment. I don't care about feelings. That's it. I don't care. And then remember, too, you got Cohen with the new casino that they're going to break ground eventually in New York. You would think with all that money, you would try to keep some of these homegrown players in-house. It's tough to do. Phillies had an issue with it many, many years ago. I used to have these conversations, good debates with Ruben Amaro Jr., right? You want to keep some of these guys, the homegrown talent. You want them to blossom over 6, 7, 8 years playing for one club. I mean, that's what you want. I still believe Boston is going to have a say in what goes on in the offseason. I really do. I think there's, if you look at right now, 2 or 3 of the big names out there, right? So Alonso lands with the O's, Diaz goes to the Dodgers. Oh, by the way, back-to-back defending World Series champs. So the trade market is starting to heat up, right? Sonny Gray dealt to the Red Sox. You had Simeon traded to the Mets, right? 3-time All-Star infielder. But there's a couple other names out there. I mean, this is kind of the beauty. Like Marte with the Diamondbacks. I mean, there's you got him linked to the Red Sox. You got him linked to Toronto. You got him linked to Seattle. Gore with the Nationals, right? Now you're talking a starting pitcher, a pretty good, decent starting pitcher that's going to eat up some innings. Duran, the other outfielder from the Boston Red Sox. So Boston has a good problem. If you're a Red Sox fan, you got a good problem because you got 4 really good outfielders. And again, that's kind of like, that's the problem that led to Duran pretty much popping up when we were talking about trade rumors right around July 31st. But Boston's going to be a player. But the Alonso contract, it is a monster one, and it happens a day after the Schwarber deal. And Schwarber, again, I never thought, again, at the end of the day, that he was not going to resign with the Philadelphia Phillies. It was just, again, it was a move that was going to get done. And then the Phillies got, listen, you extend Thompson as well. And I think that was kind of the smart play, even though some people are like, when it comes to Thompson. And now he's extended through 2027. And that's something that Dombrowski mentioned the other day. So the Phillies are going to retool as well. But the landscape of the NL, look, it belongs to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The rich get richer. The great teams get greater, if that's even possible. These franchises, they're going to spend. And I think if you're a Yanks fan, you're a little disheartened. If you're a Mets fan, you're really disheartened because, you wanted to see a guy like Alonso retire as a Met. He just broke Darryl Strawberry's franchise record for home runs. I mean, you stick him in that ballpark in Baltimore, I mean, he's probably going to hit 55, 60 home runs a year. And again, you're not bringing him over for his glove because he's a defensive liability. So we got some comments coming in on baseball. We're going to trickle that through up until 6. We'll get into a lot more of that and some of my thoughts. I also, when Kosko comes on, we'll talk a little college football playoffs, talk a little Penn State, the issue with Notre Dame as well. We will get into that. And then as far as the NFL, again, we're on Wednesday right now. So you start to look at some of these lines. You start to look at some of the injury reports. Now you got the news coming out that Geno Smith might not be available for the Raiders. So, Angels' favorite player, Slim Pickens, right? Kenny Pickett might be the starter for the Raiders come Sunday. We'll get into that a little bit as well. Oh, by the way, Nick Sirianni pretty much kind of crushed the notion that Jalen Hurts was going to get benched. He said, talk of it's ridiculous. I mean, this is the contrarians out there that are, just still basically, what, on Jalen Hurts. And they're clamoring for the backup. And then what was really funny coming out yesterday was Shady McCoy basically saying that the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm calling BS on this. It's not a Man Up Monday. It's a Woosah Wednesday, but I'm calling BS on this with Shady. Oh, if they don't fire Kevin Patullo, you can unretire my number. Get the hell out of here. Stop. Just stop. You sound absolutely foolish. You leave the franchise Hall of Fame if an offensive coordinator isn't fired. I'm calling BS to the 10th degree on that one, Shady. Utterly ridiculous, because some of the comments out of his mouth are just absolute asinine, clownish talk. So yeah, I'm not buying it for a minute. No, thank you. See you later. I get it. They're 8-5. They struggled. It's all on. How about this? You want to get on the offensive coordinator, because I get it. Everyone's, if you're an Eagles fan, you're tired of this team struggling on offense. So you got to point a finger at who you believe is the culprit. But can you also talk about the person that hired or went to bat for Patullo? But we don't want to talk about that. Nick Sirianni. Listen, Kevin Patullo should never really see the light of day when it comes to being an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I mean, this team was second in rushing yards per game last year. They're 22nd. They were 5th in total yards, right? And per rush, now they're 24th. Their penalties, for points, they were 6th or 7th in the league in total points. Now they're 19th. So third down, again, conversion's horrible. They were top 10 last year, where you move the sticks. And now they're 28th. So atrocities have been done with the Philadelphia Eagles. We know that. Man chimes in. He knows it is a Woosah Wednesday. New headphones, who this? A.K.A. Heisman, A.K.A. Vince, A.K.A. Steeler Nation, A.K.A. Duval. What does he have to say on this Woosah Wednesday edition of On Cue? I know he's probably got something goofy to say. What do we got there? Here to ruin your Zen. What's up, man Q? Cut it out with the baseball talk. It's 2025. Nobody cares. I mean, you kidding me? I got 56 comments already on baseball. I got guys tweeting at me left and right. You just don't follow the sport, man. You're very narrow-minded. You stay in your lane. It's all about CU, Dion, and Duval with you. That's okay. And it's not going to ruin a Woosah Wednesday. I told you, I'm in total Zen mode. I am absolutely total Zen mode. Eagles are sliding. The head coach is on the hot seat. Laugh. The offensive coordinator's got to get fired. They want the quarterback benched. Dallas still is Dallas. They stink. I'm starting to get my man Cam Scatterbo walking again. Dart's going to play again. Daniels is going to be out. Giants have an opportunity to win a game, even though I don't want to win a game because I want them to get the number 1 overall draft pick. There's absolutely my level of Zen on a Wednesday. It's just on another level. It really is. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just on another level. That's it. And chimes in. Q, did you see that the boys over at Beastal said that Hurts is Russell Wilson 2.0? I mean, Russell Wilson's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I feel as though when these quarterbacks, when their time has come, we we forget the body of work. We only remember them when they're struggling, right? They're the latter stages of their career, because more times than not, when they retire, unless you're, an Elway or a Peyton Manning, even to some extent Tom Brady, you don't really get to go out on top. So obviously, we look at the quarterbacks and we're like, these guys can't play anymore. It is, as I mentioned, listen. You can complain all you want about the quarterbacking position. You can complain all about what you want when it comes to Jalen Hurts. Totally understandable. Totally understandable. All these gripes when the starter who makes a lot of money or the franchise quarterback is struggling and they're losing games. Again, all it boils down to is the fact that, you want your quarterback to be held accountable. You want your quarterback to say all the right things. You want your quarterback to go about his business, but you need at times your quarterback to elevate the rest of the team. And sometimes guys can do it and sometimes guys can't. Kevin CQ, I'm an amazing fan. I can't believe they friggin' let Alonzo walk. Absolutely a disgrace. Season tickets, no thank you. Listen, that's a knee-jerk reaction, Kevin. That's a knee-jerk reaction, and I know you are a 4-for-4 kind of guy. Mets, Giants, Rangers, Knicks. Appreciate the comment as always. I think that's overreaction. They just were not going to offer him the type of money that Baltimore did. And there's in sports, you can't assume that the player's also going to be loyal and turn around and say, I'm coming back for a hometown discount. You can't. If you've proven your worth, just like at your job, if you're there for a long time and you show up and you do really, really well, then hey, man, all that matters is, you're there, you're producing, you're productive, right? And if you're putting up stats and you're winning and you're a winner, then they should know your worth. And sometimes franchises and teams and brasses and jobs, they don't know your worth. They don't know your worth. So you can't sit there and, you want to be the prisoner of the moment and all of a sudden walk back and push the goalpost back and say, I can't believe this. You know what? I forget about me going to these games next year. You're okay. That's fine. But again, you're talking offensively, you know what he gave you. You're talking about an all-star, MVP conversation, a slugger. The average is decent, 272. He gets on base. He's going to crank out the doubles. He's going to crank out he's going to drive in runs, and he's going to hit home runs. So we know about the issues with the defense, but the one thing is, face of the franchise, durable, and he's consistent, and he hit one of the biggest home runs in Mets history, in the postseason that we saw 2 years ago. So I get it. You want your homegrown talent. It's like when the Phillies had their core, Hamels, Rollins, right? Chooch, Ryan Howard. They had their core of players. You never wanted to see that broken up. You didn't want to see guys go somewhere else. And sometimes they gave monster contracts that didn't work out. The Howard contract, he broke down. But that's life in sports. That's life in baseball. That's why, as I mentioned, the fans of baseball, it's kind of a different animal when it comes to, football. It's a different animal. It's a different animal because you're not seeing the players' faces, right? You got the helmets. They're not as visible. You couldn't really recognize them walking down the street. In baseball, you can. So there's more of an appeal. And you gravitate towards those players. So yes, when one of those players feels scorned or not appreciated, yes, they're going to go and they're going to turn around. They're going to have a big time contract. They're going to get offered a lot of money and they're going to take it and they're going to run with it. Have you seen the videos of Rivers at practice? He's gained a few. Yes. I hope he doesn't have to play because I don't know how that can possibly go any good. So, yeah, I mean, listen, you got him off the sofa. You mean to tell me, though, more to your point, You mean to tell me that there is not another quarterback or quarterbacks on depth charts or waiver wires that have been getting reps in that are much younger than Rivers, that are not just coming off the sofa? And this is no disrespect or shot at Phillip Rivers, but you got to call for what it is. You got to call for what it is. I mean, Indianapolis, you think maybe Indianapolis could have caught up? I don't know. You want to, a guy that gives you a little juice. I don't think he's a very good quarterback, but you need someone that's reliable and can scramble and run around a little bit. I mean, think about some of these quarterbacks that are on rosters in the NFL. Now, the Colts have an affinity for Rivers, and Rivers has an affinity for the Colts the one season he played with them. So there is a mutual respect there. But are you going to tell me that, you got Quinn Ewers, you got Zach Wilson on a roster, you got Tommy DeVito on a roster, younger guys, and you're going to a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers? Come on. Tom in Summers Point chiming in. Q, I'm going to call BS with you on Shady. There's absolutely no friggin' way that he's going to pull himself from the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I mean, it's goofy talk. It's just goofy talk. I got it. Yeah, the offense stinks right now, but you're talking 3 games. So yeah, by the way, you can take that number and make it active again. They're 8-5. They're 8-5, and we're talking about a team that you would think was 2-11, 4-9. They're 8-5. They're not a great team right now. They're not a very good team right now. They're an average team right now, and they've been struggling. They've been struggling. But my goodness, it's just so dramatic. KC chimes back in, Giants fan. Q, did you see that Marcus Freeman? There's a mutual interest between him and the Giants. Let's pump the brakes on that. Let's pump the brakes on that, please. You're going to have like 13 names pop out when we're talking about these head coaching vacancies across the NFL. I mean, there's going to be a ton. Halfley, Shula, McCarthy, Brady, Weaver. Listen, Diaz, Campbell. You're going to hear the retreads. Just, everyone just needs to kind of pump the brakes a little bit, because you have no idea how it's going to play out the next 3 or 4 or 5 games for some of these teams. You don't know where they're going to be when it comes to April and the draft. You don't know if they're going to keep their GM, right? Come on. McCoy's turned into one of these awful media types that just tries to say things out of left field for clicks and views. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Cowherd's been saying some goofy stuff, but half the time he doesn't even do any friggin' research. He talks out of his ass too, to be quite honest. But yeah, some of the stuff is just utterly ridiculous. Like, even like with Chris Sims ranking the quarterbacks and talking about the quarterbacks. Yeah, you played in the NFL. We get it. You're breaking down film, but it's not always objective, and sometimes it just comes off as very disingenuous and downright kind of like laughable, to be quite honest, right? So I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that. Really, I'm just not. I just just. But to your point, it's exactly what people are looking for, right? Jay chimes in. Q, that is a monster deal. 5 years, $1.55. I don't think the Mets were going to budge. I agree with you. Yeah, they weren't. They were not going to budge. So it stinks if you're a Met fan. You lose a slugger, and it happens, right? Last time Caleb Williams, Shador Sanders played each other, Sanders brought team back late to tie the game and fell short, expecting a rerun of the same in this Sunday in freezing temps. Well, the interesting thing is that Stefanski decides, let's take the ball out of his hands when we're trying to go for 2. So, by the way, the Bears are only 7.5. If you are curious with that Colts line, by the way, it has now ballooned, no pun intended, up to 14. Seattle is a 14-point favorite. And as I hear him coughing in the background, Mike's not on. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, That line is now 11.5. I don't even know if it sounds like a dry cough. We got to figure out what the hell's going on here. I got him in the queue room. It did sound like a dry cough. I don't like that. I don't need, really, to be quite honest with you. I don't want my host to not only feel sick before they come on the air. I mean, maybe there's germs going on. I have absolutely no idea. But then you're sitting there and you're friggin' coughing in the queue room, in the green room. You know how much time we spend in that room? I mean, that's it's absolutely unbelievable, man. I mean, you're coughing. You got
I didn't cough at all. I was
you
laughing
spritz,
because you're reading the comments over here, my man. Come on.
spritz, you spray. Oh, you were
No,
laughing.
I wasn't coughing at all. I was laughing at you. It was, your commenters all up and down. By the way, on the Mets, my poor father, because I had to text him that, sorry, Edwin Diaz is going to the Dodgers.
Yeah,
Pete Alonso just got signed with the Orioles for
yeah, yeah.
all of
What he did he now? Is he?
all I get back, Rich, is unreal, and I'm like, there you go.
Well, you know,
Mets
is
want to spend money, but they don't want to spend money. It's like my Red Sox. They were supposedly in on Pete Alonso,
yeah,
but less
yeah.
years, less money by a lot. I'm like,
Would you have given? Would you have? I would have gone 6 at 130 if I was a Mets, but they didn't offer him anything.
no. And apparently the Red Sox, what was it, 155 was the
Yeah, yeah,
deal. Apparently, I don't know what the figures were. I'm going to estimate if it was far less years and money, they probably offered him what, three and 120 maybe, which, I mean, on average is great, but the guy wants a longer deal. And I'll tell you what, Rich, for the Red Sox to somehow make the playoffs last year after trading Rafael Devers, which is still a dumb move. I don't care how bad he tanked in San Fran. They had no power bats. Why do you think they lost to your Yankees? No power bats. What do you need in 2026 for Fenway? A guy like Pete Alonso. But
yeah.
hey, we're gonna, Craig Breslow. We're gonna spend big. We're gonna play big, and they still don't do it. It's amazing.
Well, I did mention the Red Sox because I think the one name to watch is Duran, the outfielder, because you guys kind of stockpile with some pretty good.
Yeah, he's probably trade bait at this
Yeah,
point. That's been the talking point, I think, since last July or since
yeah.
this July. And if they're not going to bring back Bregman, which they really should, I can't believe they're not going to bring him back if that's the case. And I was back all in on Schwarber before he re-signed with the Phillies. I was like, bring him back. That was a great half of 2021 when he was in Fenway and he helped
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ALCS.
yeah. All right, we know it's a holiday, so why not? We're making some savings with our guy Kosko, Nick
That's right.
Kosko.
We're already past Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but
Yeah, well, I mean, we still have the promo code Back Your Play
that's
20,
true. I'm sure there's
20% off.
is there something called like Toyotathon going on too or something? I
Oh
see
yeah,
the commercials all
absolutely.
day
Yeah,
long.
yeah,
So
yeah. Like those Mike Piazza commercials, the ones when they do them in English, right? Yeah, Mike Piazza, Mike Piazza, Mike
yeah,
Piazza.
say something funny, Rich. Say something funny.
Yeah. All right. Do we start with the team that I love to hate, Notre Dame, taking their
Oh
ball?
yes,
I
yes.
mean, what a bunch of frigging crybabies,
Oh
pretty
my
little
God,
crybabies,
yes.
Irish, and then teasing us. We're not going to be an independent. Get out of here with that nonsense. So you get Notre Dame out, Miami in. It's amazing. Let's take the ball and go home. We're not going to play in any bowl games at all. And the whole Notre Dame is joining the conference crap, please. But again,
I don't want to be a child about this, but I
yeah,
mean, the way I look at Notre Dame, Rich, and this is actually the first time we're talking since last week, so we did not actually talk about them not getting in. But
yeah,
I think I mentioned last week that Miami should be in. I've been on that train the entire time. They beat them head to head. They were close in the rankings, and of course, the committee wants to finagle it. Where BYU, which by the way, BYU was not in the field at all. For people saying, on a side note, Alabama wasn't punished for their
right.
SEC loss, but BYU was for the Big 12. BYU wasn't in. Now, should they have dropped necessarily? Maybe, maybe not, but they weren't punished. They were never in the field to begin with. So that's one point. The other point, Miami always should have been higher than Notre Dame, especially when the two teams got very even in their
Agree.
resumes as the season progressed. But the committee backed themselves into a corner, kept Notre Dame above them the entire time until the final weekend, and they both did not play. So they did something slightly unprecedented, which was flip them when they both didn't play. Because they're like, oh, yeah, they actually did play 4 months ago, so we actually are going to flip them now because Miami beat them head to head.
Mm-hmm.
That's beside the point. Now, do I think Notre Dame should have been in the playoff in a perfect world? Yes, but it's not a perfect world, and there's rules for a reason, and group of 5 teams can get in, and people want to say there's 2 G5 teams, not Notre Dame. Well, go blame the ACC because they beat themselves to a pulp internally anyway. So all that aside, Notre Dame should have been in a perfect world, but they are being a bunch of crybabies, as you already put it. Take the ball, go home, all that good stuff. I think they're actually supposed to play BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which actually, by the way, you could poo-poo the Pop-Tarts Bowl you want. That's the biggest bowl game out there besides the college football playoff. That game gets the most viewership that any other bowl game besides the college football playoff. So, one, I can't believe they're not playing for one. And for Pete Bavacqua, their AD, to come out and say,
Yeah.
well, this wasn't a me decision. This wasn't a Marcus Freeman decision. This was a collective decision because the players said,
Right.
yeah, we're fine with not playing. I kind of find that hard to believe, but okay. 10-2, and you're just going to end the season because you don't, I see reports that they don't want to give ESPN the satisfaction and give ESPN the television ratings because whatever the case may be.
Well, that's also the CFP. They're diminishing the value of book. But by the way,
blame the committee. Blame the committee because
they lost two of the they lost to the two toughest teams on their schedule.
Correct.
You would think they like friggin' had to go through like the SEC and catch all that smoke.
And listen, and on that point, because I wrote this because I mean, first of all, I actually had no idea Pete Bavacqua was doing a live press conference yesterday out of nowhere, which this would not happen unless there was something controversial where they did not get into the playoff and they felt like they've been wronged, worse than any other college football team in the history of the world. Do we not forget back in the BCS era when Oklahoma State was undefeated? And remember, they didn't get into the top two. They got moved the last week. And that's how Alabama ended up rematching LSU that year in the game of the century. Remember that? Okay. So he goes, and this is my favorite quote. We had the greatest 10-game stretch in the history of college football, or the best one this season, however he phrased it. And I'm like, well, you beat one ranked team. You beat USC. Okay, good win. But those last 2 weeks you beat Syracuse, which bottomed out this year, and you beat Stanford with an interim coach in Frank Reich that is totally rebuilding because Frank Reich had to take the job because they fired their coach in April, and Andrew Luck's like, we need to rebuild this program from scratch. Andrew Luck, former quarterback, as the GM now. So your last 2 wins where you feel like you made a statement at the end, you did not make a statement. You're playing the Purdue's of the world, the Syracuse's of the world right now. Not a great schedule at all. And let's not forget, this is a team that made the playoff last year after losing to Northern Illinois. So maybe they thought they had some precedence from last year. And again, now do I think the committee did them wrong by saying, yes, you're probably going to get in as long as you win out? Yes, because I think that was everyone's assumption, even in college football media. That was everyone's assumption. A 10-2 Notre Dame team is probably not going to get left out of the college football playoff. But when it comes down to it, when you look at the strength of schedule, the resumes, and just the way the rest of the schedule ended up with, or the rest of the rankings ended up because the SEC was little this year, the Big Ten had 3 teams get in as well, and obviously the Group of 5 was really good this year, and the ACC beat itself up. Yeah, you might have to come down to a situation where, unfortunately, you lost to the other good team that's going to be on the bubble with you, and fair's fair. You played them on the field, not hypothetically, and you lost. So should they have gotten in by the virtue of the metrics that were out there? No. Do I think they're one of the 12 best teams and could go on a run back to the national title game? Yes, but that's not the case.
So there's no bias against them because they're an independent, number one. And number two is, now you see what they're doing. They're basically taking the ball and they're getting out of their own friggin' sandbox, right? Because they didn't get their way. Does this, when you have a team like a Notre Dame that gets snubbed, I guess it calls into question like the sustainability now when we start to talk about the traditional bowl format. Like, can you foresee a situation next year where, say, Ohio State gets snubbed because they lost 2 and they're like, we're not going to play in the popular Pop-Tart Bowl,
the Pop-Tart
right?
Bowl, baby. Hey, you get to eat a gigantic one.
Are you setting is a bad precedent being set?
I think this is a little bit more eye-opening than usual, just because. Also, by the way, if we, speaking of opt-outs, like Iowa State 8-4, like, okay, you're going to go to a bowl game, right? No, you lose. They lost Matt Campbell to Penn State, and like this happens all the time, where sometimes the team loses their coach, but they still play in the bowl game. They opted out, and then if you remember, I don't know if you were following Brett McMurphy all on Twitter, but he was like, okay, here are the 7 teams or the 8 teams that opted out of a bowl game in the Birmingham Bowl against Georgia Southern before they finally got App State to rematch them. After 4 weeks of playing them already. By the way, Rutgers and Temple at 5-7 said, "No, we're good. We're not going to go play a bowl game." So I don't know if this is going to set an ugly precedent for bowl games, but I mean, I think at a certain point we have to say the traditional bowl game system is over. It's probably been over actually since the playoff was instituted, because people have said even since the 14 playoff that the bowl game the bowl game season, it has lost a lot of meaning. I kind of disagree because not everybody can make the playoff and not everybody can win a national championship game. So if you're pitted against another good team that's similar on your level and you win that game, your players get to go celebrate at a warmer location, have like a nice like week down there, and it's dry and it gets money in for the program depending upon the bowl game. I think that's good for a team morale. You obviously get the extra 15 practices, so bowls are good for that reason. But because you see teams like Notre Dame opting out amid their snub, Iowa State opting out amid a coaching change now, and I think they are subject to get fined as well. According to what our own on three zone Brett McMurphy reported the other day. So I don't think it's going to be the end of bowls next year, but I think you're going to slowly start to see if these teams are opting out. And again, it just depends upon who wants to foot the bill for these bowl games, because that's where it is. They're basically the bills are footed by sponsors, these big corporations that want to put their brand out there. They want to pay these teams and they pay these rights fees for the networks and the stadium usage to get their brand out there. At a certain point, do they care who plays in those games? That if people are going to watch bowl games, and you would watch bowl games all winter long anyway. So I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon. I think you're going to see more situations like this. Now, do I see a team like Ryan Day's Ohio State next year if they're 10-2, but Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, and Michigan all get in and they don't for some reason? I don't think Ryan Day's the type of guy to take his ball and go home based on what he's been able to do over the last couple of years. I think this was a outlier situation. I think this was spearheaded by Pete Bavacqua because he called out pretty much everybody. I know Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, came at him as well. Bavacqua went after the ACC, saying they had, quote, they had done permanent damage to their relationship with Notre Dame, which I think is a bunch of nonsense. Then it's like, hey, you want to play Power Four teams, think you're going to beef up your schedule? It's like it's not necessarily the ACC's fault that those teams that you scheduled were not good this year. Okay, you didn't play. You played Miami, a good ACC team.
Right.
You lost. You didn't play
Right.
a decent Louisville team. You didn't play Duke, if memory serves correctly. They didn't play Virginia, who made the ACC championship game, by the way. And this whole mess, I think, could have been not avoided, but maybe looked at a little bit lighter if it's like, okay, the ACC had two teams get in, Virginia and Miami as an at-large, and it's like, okay, Notre Dame just ended up getting pushed out because they had a weaker resume by comparison. But my long answer is I don't think this is going to end bowl games. I think we're going to get closer to a model, closer to the NFL before too long, whether that starts next year with a 16-team playoff or the reports that maybe the committee and other officials in college football are going to start looking at the Big Ten's proposed 24-team model, because the FCS has that and the Big Ten has a big proposal where the big conferences get a lot more automatic qualifiers and they're essentially playing games like these conference championship games where it's like the top four get in.
Right.
There's ideas where the top four teams in the Big Ten, for example, they play extra games at the end of the year to qualify for the conference championship, or maybe they shorten the season, so on and so forth, to get these automatic qualifier bids. So I think that's the way we're heading. I don't think bowl games are gone. Maybe you'll see a couple more drop just because I don't know how much money you're going to spend for, at this point, 5 and 7 programs every single season.
Sure.
to
It's very
represent the
saturated.
bowls, right? So it's been oversaturated. There's like 40 bowl games, so it's been oversaturated. I think that saturation is going to start going down because all the focus will be on an eventual 16-team playoff and maybe perhaps beyond in years to come.
I'm also wondering too, with the snub now, obviously you'll start to see the buzz. A couple Giant fans were commenting, "Hey, Q, did you hear? Freeman to the Giants, Freeman to the Giants." Look, Notre Dame's going to do everything in their power to keep him.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I'm wondering, do you know his contract details?
I think his is one. I think that's. I want to say is it private? So I don't know off the top of my head, but I can tell you right now that Marcus Freeman, I would be stunned if he left Notre Dame for the New York Giants, because if you go to the NFL now, granted, Marcus Freeman could have NFL aspirations either right now or in the future, but the NFL is a whole different ball game because the way he has been able to reshape Notre Dame after Brian Kelly, where it's like, Notre Dame's like, hey, Brian Kelly sprinters for LSU. Obviously, look how that worked out for him after not even 4 years at LSU in full. Marcus Freeman took what he had, built upon it, and shaped Notre Dame into
Correct.
his image over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And they've gotten to the playoff. They got to the playoff last year, got
Right.
to the national championship game, and this has been a highly competitive program. Now, whether they join a
Now,
conference or
why do you
not
want to leave
remains to
that?
be seen, right? So, but I think with the way I think that his estimations are around, and I think I don't know if there was a new deal recently signed or if it was the numbers have started to leak out, but I think his contract run from what I've remember and have gathered in the last 2 seconds, I think it's through 2030, and I think
Gotcha.
it makes in that $9 million a year range. Now, could Notre Dame afford him like a Lane Kiffin contract? Like, hey, we're going to pay you
So,
13 million a year to
yeah,
keep you here if the NFL comes a knocking.
right. For
They
like 10
absolutely
years.
would.
Yeah, like or a Matt
I
Rule
think
contract.
yeah, I think Notre Dame would be asinine to let him walk to the NFL, or at least they have to go down swinging. If the call to the NFL for Marcus Freeman's too great, and I don't see any indication that it is yet, if that call's too great, whether it's the Giants or some other opening, Notre Dame's going to do everything they can to make him one of, if not the highest paid college football head coach.
It's funny. You see what's going on, everything with Penn State, right? And,
Mhm.
I think they just fired their defensive coordinator.
They're
I
not
mean,
re
that's
they're not re so Matt Campbell's not going to retain Jim Knowles, and then I mean, just
gotcha.
a quick aside, Jim Knowles, the path of his career is wild.
Ohio State. He
He
left Ohio State.
went from Oklahoma State, where he was a good DC, and then he goes to Ohio State, wins a title. They have awkward conversations about getting him a new deal, and it ultimately comes like, "Okay, we're gonna move on. You can go." And James Franklin's like, "Come to Penn State. We need to go win a national title now, as we have everything back." And this is before, obviously, the disaster of the 2025 season, but Penn State was thinking, "All we need is Jim Knowles, and now we can become the Ohio State of this year, in 2025."
Sure.
And then what does Ohio State do? They get a revitalized Matt Patricia, and now the defense is arguably better this year, and
Right.
Jim Knowles is going to be out of a job, although he is expected to now join Tennessee under Josh Heupel in the coming minutes, essentially. I think they're working on their buyout or his buyout with Penn State because Matt Campbell didn't want to retain him, but now Knowles is going over to Tennessee, which is to be expected now. But his trajectory is just absolutely wild. That turned out in the last couple of years.
Do you like this hire? I mean, you saw what Campbell was able to do with Ohio State, right? Won 70 plus
Yeah.
games. But again, now you're going to, you know, Penn State that is heavily backed by
Mhm.
boosters, alumni, the community, right? A lot of people that can cut checks, and it's all about recruiting. And, is there pressure on him knowing that Franklin, let's be honest, on a consistent basis can never really win the big game?
Yeah. There's definitely is pressure on Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell is one of the most genuine coaches in college football. I think he's beloved all around, did a tremendous job at Iowa State. That 10-year run he had with the Cyclones was the best 10-year run that program has ever seen and maybe ever will see, because that's you're for football wise, you're in the shadow of the Iowa Hawkeyes, which is the model of consistency under Kirk Ferentz. And Iowa's at least had big time national success compared to Iowa. Iowa State is essentially the little brother in state against the Hawkeyes when you look at brands and football. Other sports, you can have a different conversation, but football, Iowa State is second to Iowa, at least in my mind, when it comes to when you think about football in that state, right? But he was very good, very successful. He's made the Big 12 championship a couple times. But I think there is instant pressure. I think I want to push back on that he has very little time at Penn State to get it done fast because he's in the same boat as Franklin, where it's like the top 10 record, the ranked record isn't great, but it is better than what Franklin did, and he did it at Iowa State, right? The thing with Matt
Apples and oranges. Yep.
Right. I think the thing with Matt Campbell is, and people want to say, well, Penn State's not, if they're not satisfied, they have the money, they just bought out Franklin, they'll buy out this guy too. I push back on that a little bit because Franklin was there for 10 years, right?
Right.
Or whoever, I think it was 10, 13 years. I forget the exact time now, but he was there for at least a decade, right? Decade plus. And before that, Bill O'Brien probably would have been there longer too. But guess what? The NFL came knocking, and he
Sure.
couldn't resist. He wanted to go back to the NFL, right? He's been with NFL and college throughout his whole career. I know he came back to college with Boston College now in recent years, but Bill O'Brien don't forget, he was the one who kind of got that program back on good footing after Joe Paterno was forced out, and then there was disgraced amid the Sandusky stuff.
Right. Right.
Anyway, that program was an absolute mess. Bill O'Brien righted the ship, right? People like to forget that sometimes. Franklin built upon that and made them a sustainable model. And also, for the short leash people, James Franklin, by the way, just to kind of relate this to Matt Campbell, James Franklin went 7-6 a couple years ago at Penn State. And what happened after that year? They rewarded him with a new 10-year deal, which ultimately I know they just got rid of him this year, but it's like they still bought into James Franklin after a 7-win season. This team went 6-6 with Franklin going 3-3, interim coach Terry Smith going 3-3, who's by the way staying on staff, that's to be expected under Matt Campbell. So I like Campbell, really good recruiter, and now that he has more resources, has a bigger and better recruiting base, I think he's going to be really successful. Is this team going to win 10, 11 games next year? I can't tell you that on December 10th of 2025. I can't tell you this program is going to be, I think they're going to be in good hands for quite a while under Campbell. Now, will they reach the national title success? I think Campbell has the ability to do that, but the other pushback is, yes, he did a lot with little at Iowa State, but also he didn't win the big one either. He didn't win the Big 12 title. He didn't get to the college football playoff. So you have to take the good with the bad right there, but I think he is a fantastic coach that I think they should have looked at as their number one target to begin with.
I don't know if you checked the wire. Do you want the breaking news?
We have breaking news?
Michigan.
What do we have for Michigan? What happened?
Fired their head coach.
No, they didn't.
I'm reading it right here.
You gotta be kidding me. Oh my goodness.
According to reports, Michigan fired
Sherrone
Moore for cause. A university investigation uncovered off-the-field transgressions. I mean, you're on 3. You're their college guy. We're breaking news on Q on a Woosah Wednesday. What is this? Nick Kosko, reaction.
For internet's sake over here, I closed my Slack channel.
It's Kosko in Jersey, initial reaction.
I was off shift at 4 o'clock. I closed my Slack channel. I recorded a high school pod. I'm keeping the apps closed for the good Wi-Fi in my home office for on Q right here. Wow. All right. So I need a moment to digest this.
Yeah. This might be another Michigan State scandal.
This is unbelievable. Okay. So we have, now I'm reading a couple. So we have, all right, Nicole Auerbach just tweeted this out. The quote is, credible evidence was found that Coach Moore engaged in, oh my goodness, inappropriate relationship with a staff member. You've got to be kidding me. Holy moly.
Do we need to check? Do we need to check in? Does someone got to check in on Presidente here, man? Not a good little run.
No, not a good couple of weeks. Oh, and then now I have to go. So let's see. So funny enough, my boss in our Slack channel right now, I open it back up on our good old On3 national news desk. He just goes, buckle up. It's going to be a fail the victors kind of night.
Wow. I mean, that
is unbelievable. Holy.
Yeah.
And how about this? Because speaking of this tie back into Matt Campbell.
Yeah. Matt
Campbell's been linked to, I mean, you know this. Matt Campbell's been linked to a lot of bigger Power 4 jobs pretty much his entire tenure of Iowa State when he became successful. What was one of them? Michigan.
Yeah.
Wasn't Matt Campbell to Michigan a very popular take? Anytime they were like, maybe they got to fire Jim Harbaugh. Matt Campbell.
Everyone connected the dots because we thought Harbaugh was going. Well, I said it. I mentioned you. He's winning and going back to the pros.
Yeah. This is.
Can I go back to something?
Sure.
Do you remember? Didn't he miss?
By the way, Biff Pogge's the interim head coach. We love Biff.
You. I mean, that's a hell of a name.
Cut off sleeves. We love Biff.
Didn't Moore miss a couple games due to suspension? Part of this.
It stemmed back from the sign stealing. I think he was suspended. I forget if it was 1 or 2 this year, but he coached the Oklahoma game because it was against his alma mater, and they were able to, I forget how, able to pick and choose which games he was suspended for this year. And I think he would have had to be suspended for 1 or 2 games next year. I believe it might have been 2 this year and 1 next year, or vice versa. So he missed the Nebraska game this year. I do remember that off the top of my head. But oh my God, yeah. So now I thought this stuff was done. So when you told me he was fired, I'm like, I can't believe they're coming back to the sign stealing stuff. But this is obviously entirely different. So this puts a whole new light on what the hell was going on in Michigan under Sherrone Moore.
There you go. Now you're starting to pick up what I'm laying down. That is my whole point. Who was the coach a couple years ago? I know Smith got fired by Michigan State, but who was the coach prior to that?
Mel Tucker. Yep. So
Same nonsense.
This
well, I mean. there was a lot more going on.
There's a lot. I think there's a lot more to, at least as far as we know. There's a lot more to
Yeah,
the
with
Mel
cell
Tucker
phones
stuff.
and whatnot. But
Right. So,
wow.
I mean, this is obviously just breaking in the last 15 minutes. So, shout out to my On3 crew for getting on top of this.
Shout out to your crew. Shout out to me for throwing it, lobbing it up there. People are telling me take it easy.
New On3 insider Rich Quinones.
No, I got Joe tweeting in, said, "Relax, his Slack channel is closed." Laugh out loud.
It was. What do you want from me?
Well, now, man, you know, when these reports come out and these moves are made, you can speculate all you want at the end of the day, but eh, there's obviously it's not going to be good. Put it this way, it's just not going to be good.
No, and the fact that this is now rapidly happening in the last 15 minutes, 2 days from now, it's going to be a mess. And all right, so again, shout out to On3. I have the statement for you from the university. So I got that for you. So let's fire away here. This is from the athletic director, Ward Manuel. Quote, head football coach Sherrone Moore has been terminated with cause effective immediately. Following a university investigation, credible evidence was found that Coach Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. This conduct constitutes a clear violation of university policy, and maintains zero tolerance for such behavior. Biff Poggi has been appointed the head football coach in an interim capacity, effective immediately. So nothing else besides that. But at this point, if you're Michigan, I mean, we saw Penn State was about to have the worst coaching search this cycle, right? And they somehow found their way back to Mac.
Well, also, that wasn't all on their fault. Let's be honest, because you had an agent that was basically
right, and
Sexton was playing dicey games here,
right? And they kind of forced the hand of the other schools to up the offers of all their coaches that they were essentially targeting in their search. But man, I don't know what you do if you're Michigan now. What do you do? I need to really think about this, man. I wish I can give you a Michigan hot board right off the bat right here, but this
I mean,
this came out of left field.
Yeah, well, what's going to be funny is you're going to hear, what names, I'm telling you what names you're going to hear over the next 48 hours.
Hit me.
You will hear Harbaugh again.
What would his 10-year show cost? Get the hell out of here.
I'm telling you, you laughed at me about the other stuff and I nailed it.
What other stuff?
I mean, I've been right all along for the past couple of years. I've been slinging darts.
I never said you were dead wrong about him going back to the pros. He wants to win the Super Bowl.
Gruden,
you'll hear. You always hear Gruden. I don't know how legit that's going to be, but you'll always hear Gruden. Dable was not. I don't want to say in the mix for Penn State, but his name was floated at Penn State. That's interesting.
Patricia, because I think he's going to get a look in the NFL too.
Matt Patricia's very interesting.
Oh, so now all of a sudden we're coming back down to earth on a Woosah Wednesday. Before it was get the hell out of here, but now all of a sudden, here we go.
No, you're coming at me saying I was coming at you. Invite back and forth here. Matt Patricia's a very fascinating name.
Well, you heard it first on Q.
I heard it first on Q. Unfortunately for you, I'm actually off shift until Saturday, so I can't write first suggested by Rich Quinones on Q on a Woosah Wednesday.
Powered by our good friends over at Coffee.
What's funny about Patricia though is damn well Ryan Day and Patricia, especially with the optics of Ohio State, Michigan.
Of course,
they're not going to even pay that any attention until they're done in the college football playoff. And guess what? Because they have the first round bye, there's not even a chance they're going to get upset before Christmas. Okay?
But doesn't it make sense? He had a horrible tenure with the Lions for a couple years.
Yeah,
he follows that up, and he has a resurgence like none other, right? With Ohio State as the DC, and by the way, dominating Michigan.
So can I add on to that? Is Ryan Day the new rehabilitation center like Nick Saban was at Alabama?
I mean, listen.
But Patricia is revered right now. He was in the NFL. He stunk with the Lions. He obviously we saw the disaster with the Eagles. Okay, he was good with the Patriots, and then towards the end, we saw it was kind of faltering, and then it ended up being a disaster in Detroit, and we saw the disaster in Philadelphia. He's been resurrected at Ohio State.
That's but you go back to the college game and you resurrect yourself. That's what happens.
Yeah. So now, does he get calls for the NFL again? I could see that, but does Michigan take the call up north?
I would say this for selfish reasons. If I'm the Giants, I would want him as defensive coordinator.
You would want him
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I don't know about no head coach. He's not defensive coordinator 100%.
The Giants have no head coach and just have Patricia as a DC.
No, I mean, obviously I need a head coach, but I don't know who the head coach potentially would be. But as a coordinator, I would,
I'm seeing some of your commenters. How about Tom Brady coming out of the booth to coach Michigan?
It's like that. New headphones.
No, that's the good old Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson move, like no previous coaching experience, and just make him head coach.
Goes to Luca Brasi. Just speculation. We don't speculate on Q. We don't know about the staff member. We don't need any of that.
Patricia's a fascinating, and now that it is funny because I mean, not that I thought that this would have been a possibility, obviously, but it is funny now that one of the hotter names on Ohio State staff was Brian Hartline, but he's already leaving.
South Florida.
He's going to South Florida to be head coach after the playoffs. So he's already out of the running. If you were thinking about Michigan, hey, we want a wide receiver, an offensive guru as an offensive coordinator can be a head coach for the first time. Let's go poach Hartline. You can't do that now. So I don't know what they do. And not that I bought into the Kalen DeBoer Penn State stuff, but I guarantee it because Michigan, I think, is a little bit more. I think Michigan's ballsier than Penn State. Why not? Why not give Kalen DeBoer a call? Now, I don't think that there's a chance in hell that happens. But if you're Michigan, I think you have to make a call. I think you should make a call to Kalen DeBoer and be like, "Hey, you want to get out of Alabama? We'll give you Michigan instead." You come it's a little bit chill. Yes, same championship expectations, but guess what? It's not the South. We're the chill North up here.
No, that's a big time university. It's going to be a appealing hire. And the other thing is, you're bringing in someone you're going to vet hard. That's number one.
Especially after two back-to-back scandals.
Come on. Are you kidding? You have to because and I would say too, you got to give them a little wiggle room. It can't be a 2-year deal. It should be a 3 to 5 year deal. Give them a chance to
It's going to have to. And I'm not saying sanctions are going to come down, but this was an individual thing, kind of like the Mel Tucker situation. Now, to be fair, Jonathan Smith, his first year at Michigan State before, he was fired after 2 years, but his first year last year, they were at 5-7. He actually had wins vacated due to Mel Tucker's indiscretions, as we'll just leave it at that.
Correct.
So I don't know how this is going to affect vacation of wins. I would imagine it's not going to affect anything from the Harbaugh era because the sign stealing stuff already tried to take care of that. Could I see stuff from the last 2 years be affected? Maybe. I don't know how long this relationship lasts. I don't know who the staffer was. Not that name's going to come out anytime soon right now, but who knows how far back this goes with Sherrone Moore.
Yeah, you're right. You just never know how deep it goes, and sanctions could come down. What do you think of the Marion hire for Coach Prime and CU?
So I know Sacramento State was high on him, and Sanders said he's going to change. He's going to change a lot with that staff. Pat Shurmur was his guy. Demoted him in season, and he's making a big shakeup. And I'll give Dion credit for this. He said he's like, I need to change. He said that. He said in his last press conference of the season, he said, staff's getting changed. I need to change. He said like along the lines of like myself included, like I gotta change. He's not gonna fire himself, obviously, but I like it. Going into year 4, he had a bad year 3. You can give him a little grace just because he lost, the best players that they had, and they had their best year in 2024. Give him a little grace, but year 4, it's probably he's going to be under pressure a little bit. And I know it was Rick George is not going to be the AD by next summer because he's stepping down. So what's the new administration going to think of Deion Sanders? They'll probably stay on the Coach Prime ship right here because he does a lot for the university. There's a lot of buzz around that football program where there wasn't any for 20 years. So they'll give him, I think they'll give him more leeway than you normally would because it's not a traditional football power, especially this century. But he knows he has to change. And so I like the gumption to go after a guy like Marion who might really get that offense rolling, especially with Julian Lewis coming back next year, only as a redshirt freshman after getting experience this year. So I like it on the surface, no doubt. Still very too early to tell. We're only in December, but I like that hire for sure.
Lastly, before I let you get out of here,
I'm just baffled by this Michigan stuff.
Listen, you might. Listen, stuff when you get fired for cause.
What are the changes? Lane Kiffin has Jimmy Sexton make a couple calls up there. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, in 2 years I wouldn't rule it out, but I am
well,
kidding.
because he's a vagabond.
Yeah, I'm
He's a
kidding.
snake. He's a rat.
Can you imagine if Lane Kiffin's like, "Hey, I've done all I can at LSU
Oh,
over 2 years,"
oh
and
my God, he's such a little
he goes
snake.
to Michigan because it's interim coach Biff Poggi for 2 years, and they're like,
But,
"You know what? Let's hold that for Lane Kiffin. LSU, the pressure cooker, might get to him, but we can get
but
him at
that's the problem,
Michigan."
because you look at their contracts and they can opt out. Now, what they get the money back, obviously. They have to, the
Depending on the
university.
buyout language, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
so
gonna he
university's
I
going to
think he has a
recoup.
huge buyout.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Which is
So it's like,
unbelievable considering that, the administration and even the governor said, like, we can't have another Brian Kelly buyout. And what do? They make it worse with Lane Kiffin in terms of how big that buyout's going to be, or would be if they had to get rid of him.
a little reference to Rounders there. Looking for a little charity there, Lester. Before I let you go, can we talk about how bad your quarterback has played? But I will say this. Now, you are a diehard Eagles fan.
Of course.
Yesterday, a lot of feathers were ruffled, no pun intended. But I had, just for some reason, for the life of me,
Mhm.
commenters, listeners, the engagement, love it all the time. Some were suggesting that the offense would be better if the quarterback was benched.
No. No. I vehemently disagree. It's not just the quarterback.
You said that like I pulled you over and you questioned. I told you how fast you were going.
Believe me, officer, I was going 54 in that 55 zone, right? This is not, and I made this comparison on Twitter, and again, my feed is at this point, or like my base is college at this point, so I think people forget that I have talked Philadelphia sports for a long time, but I kind of throw it into I throw it into the back now. But let's not forget, I know McNabb was benched, well, which is this is almost 20 years ago already.
The Baltimore game. I was
Yeah,
covering that game.
Baltimore game. Yep, he had a bad game. They tied Cincinnati. He didn't know football could end in a tie. He gets benched at halftime against the Ravens for Kevin Kolb. Has Tanner McKee look good in spots? Of course he has. He played the Giants in Week 18, and he's played in the preseason. Do I like Tanner McKee as a quarterback? Of course I do. But guess what? Everyone in Philadelphia loves the backup quarterback.
I said the same thing.
Right. They Philadelphia, I think, is the biggest football town where it's like the quarterback, the backup quarterback is the biggest folk hero to ever exist, and that only got exacerbated because the backup quarterback Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. But this is not the same situation as maybe we have to Andy Reid benching McNabb to get to light a spark and make a playoff run to the championship game. McNabb was struggling. Now, 08 ended up being a good year statistically for him, but it was because of that run at the end of the year. He was not playing that well up to
Westbrook bailed him out against the Vikings in the playoff game, but whatever.
But hey, and then maybe a little bit against the Giants too. He bailed
just
you're defending champion Giants over there.
Win was bad that day, my friend. But go ahead.
The situation's not the same though. McNabb has not won at that. Again, he never won a Super Bowl, and at that point, they were 4 years removed from their lone Super Bowl appearance of that era. They were struggling at that point where McNabb was hurt in 05, in 06, and the backup quarterback led them to a nice little playoff run, little Jeff Garcia action in 06. They're coming off an 8-8 campaign. They're struggling again, and Andy Reid's like, we got to do something. He benches them, comes back, blows out the Cardinals on Thanksgiving, who ironically beat them in the championship game.
That's right.
A couple months later. I was at that Thanksgiving game, by the way. But it's not the same because this was the tail end of McNabb's Eagles tenure, because then he has a pretty good year in 09, but they flame out against Dallas 2 weeks in a row in the finale and the playoff game, and then they trade McNabb the very next year or that offseason and go to Kevin Kolb, who is not the future because he gets hurt the first game and Michael Vick takes over.
You're missing the biggest thing.
What is my biggest thing? Hurts won Super Bowl. Is that the biggest thing?
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is less than a year removed from being a Super Bowl MVP.
What month is it? December. We are 10 months from when Jalen Hurts lit up a Super Bowl stage again with his arm. And let's not forget. And I saw the stat. I didn't remember this off the top of my head, but I saw the stat multiple times the last couple of days. Jalen Hurts led that team in rushing in the Super Bowl. It wasn't Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley.
No, he played well in the whole postseason.
Saquon was arguably was the biggest X factor to get him to that point, right? And because the offense all of a sudden fired off on all cylinders. But in the championship game and in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts was going off.
Yeah.
He went off in the Super Bowl. They lost. He outplayed Mahomes.
I agree.
He had a bad fumble, and the defense let him down. Hurts, and people want to say, don't bring up, he comes up big in the big moments, but he does. Isn't that what you want your quarterback to do? I think a benching of your franchise quarterback of this magnitude right now, when you're still in first place in the division, this is not the Eagles of 08, because they weren't even in the playoff hunt that year at that point.
You're opening up a can of worms. Yeah. Everything you're saying, you had to tune in the other day, is exactly what you're 100%. Now
it's moronic. And now do I give Eagle fans credit that they're the most passionate and sometimes idiotic fans in the NFL because they just won the Super Bowl 10 months ago, but they want the team to do it again. Yeah, that's passion. They know their football, but guess what? They also don't know their football because you don't bench your franchise quarterback. And to be fair, he's been in a slump. He had one of his worst games of his career, but he's not the only issue. The offensive line's been battered all year. I've been harping on the offensive line's been their worst issue all season long. Forget Kevin Patullo, forget Hurts, forget A.J. Brown's cryptic tweets and Saquon not running as well as last year. The offensive line's been the biggest issue. The defense is keeping in these games.
Right.
And they arguably should have won on Monday night. Yeah, they turned the ball over 5 times. But they were right there. They were right there in the end. Hurts, if he makes if there's different
A.J. Brown catch the football in the back.
A.J. Brown catch the football twice. Maybe they're not in the situation.
Yeah.
So you don't bench them, and for all I know, if they lose to the Raiders, it's a collapse like 2023. But you're not going to get rid of Hurts. You're not going to bench Hurts. He'll be back next year. I'm sure they'll fire Patullo. They'll get another offensive coordinator, and we're probably back in the same situation as they are last year that we're talking about for next year, where it's like, oh yeah, this team is fixed, and then next year's OC is going to get a head coaching job after they make another deep playoff run.
I got 30 seconds. Is who's better, McNabb or Hurts, when it's all said and done, career-wise?
When it's all said and done, I would still like to believe that Hurts on his trajectory will be the better quarterback. But McNabb's my all-time favorite Eagle. Look at this. I got a little desk decoration of good old Donovan McNabb.
Now, let me ask you something. Does the head bobble? If it does he get sick and throw up or no?
No, it does not bobble, unfortunately, but you can move the arm a little bit. See, he's got the throwing motion back there. So
so you're basically getting the mini version, the worm burners, right? I mean, how far those footballs go?
This one stuck to it. It's glued to his hand, so it's not going anywhere. McNabb's my all-time favorite Eagle. He's the best quarterback in franchise history. His numbers retired for a reason. Now, I'm not going to make the Hall of Fame argument because some quarterbacks he's not. As it stands, not a Hall of Famer. I wish he would get in, but he's an Eagle Hall of Famer. When it's all said and done, I think if Hurts can win another one, I think there's no question.
All right,
he wins another one. He's close. I'll tell you what, he's close right now. He is actually very close. Don't forget, McNabb was out of there after 10 years, and Hurts has been there for going on 6+ years now. So he is close. He is very close, I would say.
Sergeant Delaware says, Q, forget about your sponsor for the spot of coffee. Give it to Costco. Listen, my man doesn't need any more caffeine on this day. What do you have going?
More gets fired than do you want a hot board real quick from our good old On3's Pete Nakos?
Let me guess. Wink Martindale.
Well, I'll tell you what, my guy Pete Nakos over at On3, give him a follow. Right. I'll tell you what he's hearing right now. The top candidates to replace now.
Go ahead.
This is not anything set in stone. I already mentioned Kalen DeBoer, right? Yep. They have to make the call. Brian Kelly.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit better. Wherever you think of him, was good at Notre Dame. Couldn't win one.
Okay. I'm
not bad.
On that one.
They're going to make the call I think they're going to make the call here. Lincoln Riley, because his name's always been floated out there. How about this one? I have 2 more. Eli Drinkowitz over in Missouri, because he was in the Penn State conversations. Been very good at Missouri. And then here's the big one. Jesse Minter.
Well, now that's my guy.
Jesse Minter.
That's my guy. That's
current LA Chargers defensive coordinator going back to Michigan. Now remember,
his stock is rising too. That's Harbaugh's guy.
Yeah. Now I don't know.
Harbaugh brought him over.
I remember, if I remember correctly, I don't think he was hit with any type of sanctions.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
I do not think he has a show cause from the NCAA stemming from his Michigan days, because he left as Harbaugh left. But just to say he went to the NFL, because he was going to follow Harbaugh regardless. He wasn't going to stay there.
No,
Jesse Minter, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they issued a show cause punishment
on Jesse Minter.
Yeah, and also Steve Clicks count. I mean, you want me to do your job for you? You guys report this back in April of 2025.
Oh, we did. Let's see. See, I forget. It's so much has happened. Oh my God. We were all about what have we doing the last couple of days? We're following Jim Knowles, the coaching
That's funny.
we became on Lane Kiffin for a couple weeks, and then we
I got
became on Pete Bavacqua for the last couple of days. What's his show called? It can't be as long as Harbaugh's.
you.
What did we report that you're reading?
Oh wait, I got to sign up for $1 now. I can only scroll down.
Hey,
Hold on. Minter, the former defensive coordinator, received a 1-year show cause.
Oh, if I'm Michigan, I deal with that. Are you kidding me? That's it?
This segment went off the rails. You're like, read to me.
What did we report?
Let me ask you, when are you up for renegotiations when on 3? Did you already sign that
Well,
contract?
I just started year 4 of my contract. Well,
Yeah,
year 2 of the second deal.
keep me out of the room.
Well, technically, this deal expires next December, so
Okay.
hopefully by next fall they're renegotiating with me to keep me around for another 2+ years.
What you have any wrestling or hoops this weekend?
Oh my goodness! A couple Cal 101 pods going up. Be sure to check those out this week. A lot of high school basketball and high school wrestling previews. Wrestling wise, no hoops yet. We're probably gonna start some really gear into the high school hoops live broadcasts after New Year's. But I got college wrestling this weekend on Sunday. Drexel had so actually my two worlds are colliding. Going back to the homestead up at Rutgers, they're hosting Drexel on Sunday. Saturday's match was picked up by Big Ten Network. So Sunday at 1 o'clock on Big Ten Plus. Rutgers is hosting Drexel, so that'll be my next foray back onto the live play-by-play mic. So looking forward to that and getting back up to Piscataway.
All right, brother. Well, you got a lot of juice, a lot of energy. Go take a run or something. Hit the.
I actually am training tonight, so shout out to Harbor Jiu-Jitsu. I am training tonight. I do. I got to blow it off now. I can't believe Sherrone Moore was fired. Oh my God. on three's Rich Quinones reporting.
I'll talk. Get out of here. I'll talk to you later.
Later,
bro.
Rich. Appreciate you.
All right, man. That's my guy, the ever popular Nick Kosko. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back. Got to get some live reads in as well. About 12 after 5. We'll take you up to 6. All right, welcome back. 15 past 5 o'clock hour, Wednesday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Good stuff from Kosko, breaking down college football. He's probably so annoyed right now that the one thing you get off the air and then news breaks is never a fun thing. But yeah, that's a big story. That is a big story. So you got Pete Alonso signing with the O's, Diaz going to the Dodgers, Schwarber back with the Phils. You got Hurts not going to get benched. And obviously it comes down about 15, 20 minutes ago. Really kind of the big news of the day, right? In college football, boom. University of Michigan firing Moore for inappropriate relationship. So this has Mel Tucker pretty much written all over it. It really does. Also, too, Jaden Daniels is going to be out again. Mariota is going to get the start for the Giants, for Washington against the Giants. Pickett right now looks like he is in line to start for the Raiders against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, those two lines, the Indianapolis line, Seattle's favored by 13-14. That Eagles line that's jumped 2 to 3 points. It's ridiculous. I mean, I just can't imagine. They can't lose that football game. They just can't. They cannot. Michael chimes in. Are you? B Country, let's ride. Q, how do you feel about Notre Dame not going to a bowl after not making a playoff? Smart move or a rat move? Oh, 100% rat move. We just talked about it. 100%. 100% rat move. It is such a, I'm going to take my ball and go home. And it's unbelievable, right? Because, there's been all these speculative tweets, these podcast debates that because Notre Dame got snubbed now, they don't want to be an independent anymore. They want to jump to a conference, right? Because, hey, we know we jump to a conference, we're not going to get snubbed. We're not going to get screwed going forward. It's just, it's utterly ridiculous to think they're going to leave all that money on the table. Their broadcasting rights with NBC and all this other kind of stuff. They're not going to do it. And then you would think that they had to go through the SEC, which they didn't. They lost two to the toughest teams on their schedule. And we're acting like, you had to go through the 78 Steelers. It's just it's Notre Dame thumbing their nose. That's all it is. It's okay, fine. You didn't, pardon me, you didn't get in. It's not the end of the world. It's not like the biggest colossal disgrace, scandal, slight ever in the history of college sports. It's not. And I have no problem with Miami over Notre Dame. So everyone's going to look at their 10-2, number 11, right? And everyone says, okay, you're a top candidate for the most prestigious non-playoff bowls. But the problem is the college football playoff, what it's doing now, it is diminishing the value of these bowl games. When I was growing up, when I was a kid, there were maybe 7, 8, 9 bowl games. You had the Orange Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, right? Holiday Bowl. One, 2, 3 more of them. Cotton Bowl, Fiesta, the Rose Bowl. I mean, the granddaddy of them all. It's saturated now. It's absolutely saturated. And again, some Notre Dame fans were chiming in the other day. I'm like, no, you got it all wrong, man. Miami's the right move. It was the right move. You put them over Notre Dame and agree. 100%. Dan chimes in, Q. I'm a big-time Lions and Michigan fan. Are you effing kidding me? Hey, yeah, I mean, it is a big day in college football. O chimes in, Q. I know you mentioned this the other day, but I know you're going to talk a little more NFL. You're pretty critical of Pickens the other day. Do you think there's any shot that they give him a long-term deal? I personally, and Dallas fans are probably, they're not going to want to hear this. I wouldn't. I would not give George Pickens a long-term deal. I wouldn't. He's a talented wide receiver, but he's got a little of that A.J. Brown diva in him where he's not going to run the routes. And he doesn't have the good kind of dog in him. He's got the bad kind of dog in him. And you just don't need that. I mean, I get it. That's what Dallas does. That's our kind of MO. But no, I'm not going that route. Franchise chimes in, big time Mets fan. Q. 5 years, $1.55. Can you really blame Alonso? Pardon me. I'm not blaming him. I'm not. I mean, the Mets, they really didn't put an offer on the table. So if you're Pete Alonso and you just saw what Kyle Schwarber got to go back to the Phillies, and now you're the all-time home run leader with a franchise, you're an all-star, you're a good guy, you're a pro's pro, face of the franchise, the fans love you. You know, you hit a dramatic home run 2 seasons ago in the playoff, a big-time franchise-altering home run, and now the franchise is not going to be right by you, then yeah, that's one of the reasons that you decided I'm going to opt out and I'm going to get paid somewhere else, right? Are you saying he's got the Diddy dog in him? I would say the DOG, not the DAWG. Like the DAWG is a good kind of dog. But the DOG, that's not the good kind of dog. You want to steer clear of that dog. That's like the lazy dog, like bad dog. No. Like, hey, don't go on the carpet, and they go on the carpet. What do we got here? Kevin, I'll get to you in a second. I got a couple Eagles chiming in. C chimes in on the Eagles talk. Q, I think it's actually laughable, but some of the fan base would entertain Hurts being benched. Out of here from Sirianni's mouth saying absolutely ridiculous. It is. There was never any intention of benching Jalen Hurts. It's like the NFL, that's why it's so goofy sometimes. We totally forget, like if there's a coaching change or you have a backup that wins a Super Bowl, like for instance, when Sims went down in 90 and Hostetler came in, he didn't do anything spectacular in the playoffs. He managed the games. He showed his durability, his toughness. And then obviously in the Super Bowl, the 2 biggest plays was really Bruce Smith sacking him for a safety, and he held on to the football. And then you had the Ingram play, or the Baker play, the 3rd and 15, where he catches it and makes like 10 guys miss, and then the Giants score a touchdown going in the locker room. Like those were the 2 big plays, and obviously culminated, again, with Norwood wide right. That was the coup de grace, the Super Bowl, right? That defined that Super Bowl in Tampa between the Bills and the Giants. But the next year, Ray Hanley took over, and Ray Hanley made a monumental mistake that cost him his job. He decided to start Hostetler based on winning the Super Bowl when Sims got hurt and led the Giants to a 10-1 record. They were 10-0. They lost to Philly. Then they had the tough loss against the 49ers, and then Sims broke his foot on a rainy Saturday afternoon against Buffalo at the Meadowlands. But they were a great team that year, and Sims was playing really well. So this situation, it's not like Jalen Hurts is hurt and everyone's clamoring for the backup. It's not like this kid McKee came in last year and they won a Super Bowl with him. Like, it's different. It's a different era of football because the contracts are so different. When guys are making $25 million over 5 years and now they're making $40 million a year, you're not benching him. You're not. That's why I still believe there is this small outside shot that Cleveland keeps Deshaun Watson on their roster because they want to get some type of return on their investment. Obviously, I'm not comparing the 2 quarterbacks. You're talking about a guy that has not been able to reset his career, restart his career, deals with a lot of injuries and off the field nonsense in Deshaun Watson. Compared to a quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. A couple seasons ago, the Philadelphia Eagles were 10-1, and all we were talking about was Jalen Hurts being MVP. And then they had to slide. They lost to Tampa, and then they come back, and what do? They win a Super Bowl. You don't bench a Super Bowl winning quarterback less than a year after winning a Super Bowl. You don't. It's on her. Like, show me where that's ever been done. I don't even think when Montana and Young were going back and forth and flip flop, and I think it was during the season. It wasn't after a Super Bowl win, right? Or the only reason Young was playing is because Montana was getting hurt. I mean, everyone forgets that. You go to those 49ers teams, like you go to that 1988 49ers team. They weren't a juggernaut. They weren't. But come playoff time, they were 10-6. But come playoff time, they blew out Minnesota, they blew out the Bears, and they just got by Cincinnati. But if I recall that 88 season, and you guys can look it up for me, I think Montana played in pretty much 14, 15 games, and Young came in for 2 or 3. I don't think Joe Montana was benched in 88. Steve Young came in because he was hurt. Now, 1989, they had a great team, one of the all-time great teams. I think it was the same thing. They were 14-2. I think Montana got banged up, and Young played a couple games. I mean, hell, Montana was the MVP of the NFL that year. This is so everyone clamoring for the backup. It's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. And I think ultimately you've got now where we are so impatient. We want, okay, here's the perfect example. How bad did Patrick Mahomes, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, and we go to Patrick Mahomes, if we check out some of his games this season, if we're really being fair here, he's had a couple of off games. Now, Patrick Mahomes against a very good Texans team threw how many interceptions? 3. Are they sitting there in Kansas City saying bench Patrick Mahomes? No, they're not. Now, follow me. I'm not comparing the two quarterbacks, even though Jalen Hurts outperformed Patrick Mahomes not once but twice in the Super Bowl. But my point is, it's asinine. It's ludicrous. It really is. And I don't like to say stupid or dumb, but they're really stupid and dumb takes to suggest that because a quarterback has a couple bad games less than a year after winning the Super Bowl and being an MVP, he should be benched. Nick Sirianni is not going to do that. He's not. He's not. It is conjured up by the media. That's all that is. It's you saw the numbers. You saw the numbers from where the offense was last year to where the offense is this year. Now, does the coordinator have something to do with that? Does the head coach have something to do with that? Does the quarterback have something to do with it? The line, the running back, the wide receiver, all of them are culpable. All of them. The line hasn't been like it's been in years. It's banged up. It's not as productive. Saquon Barkley's having a big-time drop-off down year. Jalen Hurts has been very erratic. A.J. Brown shows up when he wants his touches and his catches and his reps. And then you got the issue with the OC and the head coach. Look how bad the quarterbacking play is in the NFL. Can you honestly name me 15 quarterbacks right now, be fair, that you believe are better than Jalen Hurts? 15 right now in the NFL. Like, go through it. You want to give me Drake May? MVP. Josh Allen? Fine. Is Jalen Hurts better than Tua? Yes. Is Jalen Hurts better than any quarterback the Jets have? Yes. Is Jalen Hurts better than Rodgers right now? Yes. Is Jalen Hurts better than Lamar Jackson overall? No. 3. Is he better than Burrow? No. 4. Is he better than any quarterback Cleveland has? Yes. He's better than Trevor Lawrence. Sorry. Is he better than CJ Stroud? You want to give me that one? 5. You're going to give me Daniel Jones and or Phillip Rivers? No. You're going to give me Cam Ward? No. Is Jalen Hurts better than Bo Nix? Yes. Is Jalen Hurts better than any quarterback the Raiders have? Yes. Is he better than Prescott? Not at the moment. right? So I think I've given you 5 quarterbacks, 4 maybe that you're taking so far. You know, is he better than you probably take Goff? Would you take Love? Probably. Would you take Bryce Young? No. Would you take the Atlanta? No. Would you take New Orleans? No. You're going to take Stafford. You'll take Darnold. You're going to take Purdy probably, and you're not going to take Murray. So I basically I've given you 6 or 7 quarterbacks, 8, 9 quarterbacks that are better than Jalen Hurts. He's a top 10-ish, 15-ish quarterback in the NFL. So if you want to say 15, middle of the pack, average quarterback, but sometimes, plays really well. Other times he's kind of hit or miss. Those are all accurate statements to make. But I feel those that are chiming in, you guys forget he won a Super Bowl and it's less than a year and you guys already want to move on from him. And that to me is absolutely goofy. It's just goofy talk. Because a couple weeks ago was, all he does is win. Who cares about his stats? Fine. Now you got a little adversity. You got a little adversity. You want to throw away the baby with the bathwater? They lost 3 games in a row. They're not the Giants. They're not 2-11. Like, just calm down. It is a big weekend for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a big opportunity in a weekend for Jalen Hurts. This is a big spot against a bad Raiders team. A very bad Raiders team. And this weekend, we're starting to see, we saw last weekend with some of these teams making business decisions. And I pulled this up because Mike is in Ohio, and Mike is a big-time Browns fan. But he said, Q, is there any way Cincinnati can make the playoffs? So I pulled this up during the break. Yes. They can win a 3-team tiebreaker. So they have to, week 15, week 16, they got to basically win out. So 15, 16, 17, right? And they definitely, and I'll pull it up right now, they definitely have to beat the Ravens, the Dolphins, and the Browns. So let's just win them out. And right now, 4-9, they get to 7-9. The Steelers would have to lose out. And the Ravens would then have to lose 3 of 4. But Cincinnati would be rooting for them the last game of the season when they play the Pittsburgh Steelers. So mathematically, it's a Wednesday. I guess I'll man up. I understand the decision now to keep playing Joe Burrow from that regard. So there's your scenario, Mike. But as far as these games this weekend, I mean, buckle up. Buckle up. Some of the games are dog games, but you got Baltimore and Cincinnati. You got the Chargers and the Chiefs. I mean, am I going to have to come on the air again on Friday and say this is it for Kansas City? I believe they're done. I believe they're cooked. To me, they don't have the makings of a playoff team. But now, how about this game? 1 o'clock, CBS. You know that's going to be a Nance and Romo game. Buffalo and New England. And the Bills on the road are laying 1.5. Washington against the Giants. The Giants are very, very thin 2-point favorite. I actually saw it open up 2.5. It'll probably sit and bleed right around 3 with no Daniels. The Raiders are an 11-point dog against the Eagles. Jacksonville also has one of the largest lines of the afternoon, 13.5 over the Jets. Jets are playing out the string. We saw them quit in the second half against Miami. Arizona and the Texans, that's a tricky spot for the Texans. They're laying 9.5. That's a large number. Green Bay, Michael's not going to like this. Green Bay is a 2.5-point favorite on the road against Denver. Now, this is what you call your classic recency bias because Jordan Love has kind of jumped a couple quarterbacks when it comes to the MVP conversation. They won 4 straight. They had a very good win on the road, mind you, Thanksgiving against the Lions. Love played brilliant. And he came back and made big-time plays in a gut check win against the Bears. It's one of the reasons that, and I think offensively, mano a mano, Green Bay's got a better offense. than the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos defense is one of the best in the NFL. This is a great game. This can also potentially be a Nance and Romo game. Packers, Broncos, 425 window. The Lions and the Rams, fantastic game. The Rams, I mean, these lines are ridiculously high this weekend. The Rams are laying 5.5 at home against Detroit. If I'm going to grab anything in that game, grab the over right now, 56.5. Panthers and the Saints, no thank you. It's big for the Panthers because they still have a shot of winning the division and getting in the playoffs. Titans and the 49ers. 49ers are laying 12.5. Seattle's laying 12.5 against the Colts. Then you've got the Cowboys and the Vikings. Dallas is laying 5.5. And you have Pittsburgh at home. They are a 3-point favorite over Miami. So you've got 3 to 4 games that have double-digit odds in those games. But all these games, the majority of the games, they're playoff implications. I mean, they are. You might have an NFC Championship preview, the Lions and the Rams. You might have an AFC Championship preview with Buffalo and the Patriots, and you might finally, at 4:25, 4 o'clock, we might have pretty much all resigned to the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs, their dynasty is done. Because if you want to give them wiggle room, give them wiggle room, right? That's fine. Cable, the 1988 corporate chapter mentioned a crazy rumor. The NFL is researching supersonic planes in order to have the NFL franchise in other countries. I mean, we knew they're going to try to expand, right? It's not a secret. They're expanding the game. The game is going to be global. The game is going to be global. Let me get to some of these other comments. This was the other day. This was on the Hertz talk. This quarterback is absolutely garbage. He's trash. Are you kidding me? Go to the backup right now. I'm not even an Eagles fan. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I know a thing or two about garbage quarterbacks. That is from DC, the Cowboys fan. By the way, when you come with that nonsense, you have there's zero clout. Seriously. You can't sit there and rip. The Dallas Cowboys have done nothing in how many years? And you guys are having a conversation it's a good franchise? Stop. Utterly ridiculous. Let me see. Hurts is a good quarterback, having some bad games this year. He's not going anywhere. That's Mont. Deuce chimes in. No, you got to really think about this. He's a very good quarterback. He picked apart Spags twice in the biggest stage. Picked apart Brian Flores' defense. Picked apart the Steelers' defense last year. That was a very good. At the moment, he's just struggling right now. You don't bench him. Yeah, I mean, listen, they're not going to. That's the bottom line. J Bone chimes in. Tanner time, Q, go Birds. Double A said, thank God. Thank God you're just a commenter. Let me see. Study Hall chimes in. MVP of the Super Bowl was the entire defense. I think he meant the entire offense. Eric chimes in. They're professionals getting millions. Show up or get out. And DP Paulie chimes in. He can read a predictable defense as soon as they throw variables. He's absolutely useless. Wow. Chiefs dynasty isn't over for one down year. They could retool and be right back at it. It's done. This run with this core is done. That's the definition of a dynasty being over. They got to go younger. You're not going to see the same roster. It's going to be vastly different. Kelsey's probably going to retire. I don't know what Andy Reid's going to do. Who knows if they're going to bring back Hunt? Who knows if they're going to go forward with Pacheco? Rice has been a friggin' headache. I mean, these are just facts. Chris Jones is getting older. And the AFC, goes to Luca Brasi, is getting younger and hungrier. That's the other thing you can't escape. And I want to give credit. I think it was either Madman or Vince. It might have been Vince, and it could have been Madman. Mentioned this the other day. It's such a down year. Like Buffalo, they showed you some signs of life, but they're still kind of a mixed bag. New England is young. Denver is young. Baltimore is banged up. Pittsburgh is banged up. They're not legit, threats. The Colts lose Jones. I still don't trust Jacksonville. The Chargers, Kansas City is cooked. And then we'll throw the Texans in there, which would be a hell of a game against Buffalo. Point is, if not if not now for Buffalo and Josh Allen and Cook and McDermott and that fan base, when? Like everything's starting to break. Yeah, you might have to go through New England. You might have to go through Denver, but you're a veteran team. You have an MVP in Josh Allen. You have a very good running game. You've got some weapons. Now, there's really not a threat of those teams running the football because they don't really run the football a lot. Your run defense is suspect. It is. But offensively, they've got some weapons. Now, they got to do a much better job of getting to the quarterback. That's the one thing I'll say about the Buffalo Bills. Like, they don't really have a big time sustainable pass rush. I mean, they only have 25, 26 sacks on the season. It's pretty bad. But you rattle a young quarterback, whether it's Bo Nix or Drake May, you put them behind the sticks. You get on top, you're up 13-3, and all of a sudden it's a 17-10 type of game in the fourth quarter, and they got to go 80 yards, right? The pressure's on those teams. That's why there's a good opportunity for Buffalo to make some noise, because ultimately your X factor is Josh Allen. Like, the AFC is a very good conference, and the NFC is stacked with young quarterbacks. We're starting to see the emergence of some of these young quarterbacks. Bryce Young coming on, right? He's starting to come on. Caleb Williams starting to come on. Jordan Love coming on. I mean, it's just the position you build around these young quarterbacks, your pocket passers that can move around and scramble a little bit, your franchise quarterbacks, and they're making really good strides. And I'm not gonna weigh AFC versus the NFC, but sometimes if you have a weaker conference and teams get picked off or there's some injuries, then you have an easy path. And that's why, this whole idea, well, home field really, it means everything. It does. It really does. It's not like the NBA or the NHL where home court, home ice means nothing. You can go on someone's home floor and beat them in a game 7. It's very hard to go on the road and win a playoff game. It really is, especially with a young quarterback. Like, it would be hard if the Bears had to go and play the Rams or Seattle on the road with a young quarterback. It would be hard for Carolina with a young quarterback to go on the road and beat the Eagles. But veteran teams like Seattle, the Rams, playoff tested teams, quarterbacks, I believe they can go on the road and beat Philadelphia. The Bears showed you they can run the football, but it's a different animal in the playoffs. Like, the stakes are higher. The regular season is the regular season. The playoffs, it's a different level. Every series, every snap, every missed throw, every drop, every turnover, it's magnified. These games change on a dime. They change on a dime. Now, we're starting to kind of get in that playoff feel, 14, 15, 16, the next couple weeks. But the NFC is, to me, I feel it's a little bit of a logjam where the AFC, if Buffalo figures it out, Denver's 11-2. They have won 10 games in a row. They're my Super Bowl winner. They're my Super Bowl pick coming out of the AFC, as you guys know. And they're my Super Bowl winner. As crazy as it sounds, I need Denver to lose a game. I need Denver to lose a game because there's no scenario on this God's green earth where the Denver Broncos, who have won 10 games in a row, can win another 4 to make it 14, host a divisional championship, and then Super Bowl, win 17 straight games. That's a tough ask. And I think, if we're really being honest here, I can see Denver getting tripped up by Green Bay this weekend. I really can. And that's okay. That's an outer conference loss. You've got 3 games coming up in the AFC, and you got 2 of them within the division. But I can see the Denver Broncos tripping up this week, and I really can. Green Bay's on a little bit of a run. I think offensively, if Denver Broncos don't get to Jordan Love, he's going to make some plays with these wide receivers. The key is stop the run first, let Jordan Love try to beat you with his arm. But there's, winning 17 games in a row. That's a tough ask. Same thing with the New England Patriots. 2 longest winning streaks in the NFL belong to those 2 teams that I mentioned. The Patriots, this is where everyone is going to say, are the Patriots legit? Forget about the Patriots going on the road in week 5 and beating Buffalo. Can you now turn around in week 15, week 14, 15, and beat Buffalo? That's surging right now. That has a little juice, has a little momentum. This is where people will look at the Patriots and say, if the Patriots beat the Bills at home Sunday, I guarantee you, the Yappers will come on the air Monday and say they're the team to beat. They are the prohibited Super Bowl favorites. Agree, Q, winning 7 straight to win the bowl but plus the 10 you already won. To 17 straight. That is really hard to do. It is. I mean, you've got to be up for every single solitary game. And it's okay if both those teams trip up. It's okay. I'm not going to sit here on Monday and say they're not legit. These are big boy tests with young teams. And sometimes you arrive a little early, like Washington did last year. And Washington went on the road and they put up 45 points against the Detroit Lions. And that was more about, the Lions with all those injuries to the linebackers, to the corners, and then Hutchinson. And Jared Goff didn't have his best game. And Dan Campbell made some boneheaded decisions. What else is new? Because he was chasing points. And then Washington got humbled in the NFC Championship against Eagles. They arrived early, and this year's been a disaster. It's been just an absolute disaster of a season for them. But when you got young quarterbacks, they're still figuring it out. And when you go from September to December to January football, it is a different animal. I don't care what anyone says, it is a different animal. These teams, man, they sit there and say, all right, we already played you once. Maybe we played you twice. It's a third time around. You're a divisional opponent. We meet in the playoffs. We're going to ratchet up the defense. We're going to blitz. We're going to blitz. We're going to blitz. We're going to blitz. We're going to just consistently knock you on your ass. We're going to hit you. We're going to sack. We're going to be relentless. The intensity, it's just ratcheted up. And sometimes coaches who you think are very good regular season head coaches, they have a tendency to also clinch up a little bit. Tense up. And maybe get too conservative. Maybe you're overly aggressive and make mistakes. And you panic because you understand one and done. That's the beauty of the NFL playoffs. One and done. There's not, all right, we'll catch you tomorrow. No, it's not a 7-game series, not a 5-game series, not a best of 5 or a best of 7. And I think we're going to have an idea if New England beats Buffalo and Denver beats Green Bay, rest assured you'll see their odds jump exponentially when we're talking about coming out of the AFC and winning the Super Bowl. Now, conversely, if you're a team like the Philadelphia Eagles and you're at home and you are an 11-point favorite against Slim Kenny Pickett and a bad Raiders team that can't stop anyone. Now, as you guys like to say, the quote, get right game. If this offense doesn't score 28 or more points, then you have a serious problem on your hands. And that's one of the reasons, Sirianni had to come out, which is utterly ridiculous, that the head coach has to come out and say, yeah, he's my starter. Quote, no, I think that's ridiculous. I know every time I go out on that field with Jalen Hurts as our quarterback, we have a chance to win the game. That's something that's been proven. We won a lot of football games. He ain't lying. It is a team game, but the quarterback always gets tagged with the wins and losses. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? The quarterback always gets tagged with the losses. Pitcher gets tagged with the wins or losses. Quarterback gets tagged with the wins or losses. Head coach gets tagged with the wins or losses. We're not talking about an outfielder. We're not talking about a wide receiver who's only 5 games over 500 in his career. Come on, picket fences. That was a very good show. Yes. I would not want to be an Eagles fan if they lose that game. Would not. I just would not. Oh, man. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I think Picket Fences ran like 3 or 4 seasons. I don't know. Was it on CBS? Remember those lineups back in the day? Like the show went to die on a Friday, even though Miami Vice, that was a perfect time slot, right? NBC, here we go. But you had, the Tuesday lineup. You had Wednesday with MacGyver, and then you had the ABC Monday Night Football promo. How about that, right? MacGyver's running for his life. Co-star Jason Priestley. Then it's the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. Great lineups. Great. Thursday night. Oh, fantastic. All right. So I gave you the lines. By the way, if you are curious, you got 2 in the association tonight. Obviously, the NBA Cup quarterfinals, Suns, Thunder, Spurs, and the Lakers. Let me get a couple more comments. Franchise chimes back in. QQQ. What the hell are our Yankees doing? It's a very good question. Steve Gardner from USA Today is going to join us next week. Talk a little hot stove baseball with him. I don't know. If you are a Yankees fan and you are a Mets fan, you have every right to be pissed off with your respective GMs and president of baseball operations. Yep. Go ahead. So the Mets now, they lose out on Alonso. They lose out on Diaz. They traded Nimmo to the Rangers for Simeon. They also signed Williams, who is with the Yankees and the Brewers. So if you really handicap their offseason, it's a failure. It's a failure. Now, the offseason is far from over. So here's the question. Who are you going to replace Alonso with? And I will give you a name that might not blow you away, but, Paul Goldschmidt, he's a free agent out there. I'm not comparing the two, but you've got a platoon of McNeil who plays everywhere, and then you go and you get Goldschmidt. And I actually, if we're really being honest, he didn't play bad. I mean, given his age, he played well with the Yankees. But it's still, unfortunately, you want to see the homegrown players stay with their teams for the entire. Like, I still think I would hate, Mike Trout needs to finish career with the Angels. Can you imagine if they lost to the Raiders? Not even Genty manning up. How about giving him the friggin' football? Right? Isn't that play calling again? Like, what the hell did you draft it back for? Give him the football. It's like we're afraid to use some of these pieces. But that's the Raiders. They're as bad as the Giants. I'm sorry. And they play, by the way. You draft this kid 6 overall, and he's getting 10 touches, 7 touches, 8 touches. I just pulled up his game log. He had a game where he had 21 touches for $128. Other than that, 14, 23, 6, 13, 19, 6, 17, 16, 10. It's not going to cut it. Give him the football 25 times. Let, Slim Pickett chuck it around the yard. Oh, Kenny Pickett. When Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley walked out. Oh, my God. That was a great movie, The Naked Gun. No filter. No filter. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. Everywhere I go, Ned, something reminds me of her. I know, Frank, you got to let it go. All right, got to start wrapping it up. Good stuff from Kosko. Man, he was on fire today. I felt bad. I had to break the news. This guy's making me report what his company reports, his website. What are we doing? But good stuff from Costco. Appreciate him. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 3 Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Played Against Sports with their holiday sales coming up. So definitely you want to check that out online. Check out my good friends. Two locations in Mount Laurel. And of course, Deptford as well. Kyle chimes in. Q, did you really quote picket fences? No, I just mentioned it was on the air for 4 seasons. That's all. So a little NBA tonight, hot stove baseball manana, and a lot of NFL tomorrow. And then, of course, on a What the Frig Friday edition of On Q. Hey, don't forget, download the Odyssey app, search Coastal Sports Digital Network. Keep it locked in right there. You can catch me now Monday to Friday, 4 to 6 live. Also on our sister station, SR 1029 FM The Game, my YouTube channel. Always follow me on X, social media platforms, IG at Rich Q on Q, TikTok Rich Q on the mic. Fast approaching the 6 o'clock hour. We will be back in the saddle manana on a Thursday edition of On Q. A little more baseball talk, a lot of NFL talk. We'll get you set for another weekend in the NFL. Has Played Against Sports considered opening a store in Atlantic City on Atlantic Avenue? They were looking at the Jersey Shore market. Interesting that you mentioned Atlantic Avenue, though. A lot of lot lizards on Atlantic. I often wonder if the bunker boys, I feel like lot lizards and bunker boys kind of go hand in hand. It strikes me, you're on the road a lot. You got to pull over. You're a bunker boy. Reception's not good, and then all of a sudden, you're visited by a lot lizard. And that's where you got to make the judgment call. Let's be honest. Let's just call for what it is. You make the judgment call because, you flip on those lights. It's a different animal, my friend. It is a very different animal. All right, 6 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. Don't forget, this is On Q. Download the Odyssey app and search Coastal Sports Digital Network. We're back in the saddle manana from 4 to 6. Also, as I mentioned, on X, SR 1029 FM The Game. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like the content and you want to troll. We don't care as long as you subscribe. Hit, smack, tap that subscribe button. All right, you guys have a wonderful Sports Wednesday. Don't forget, we are powered by 3 Brooks Bourbon, fresh roasted coffee. Get ready with tea. And of course, Played Against Sports. We will let you know if they're ever going to have a location down in Atlantic City. You guys enjoy the NBA tonight. A lot of NFL manana. We'll start 12 with the Thursday Night Football Fair, and then we'll dive in to another weekend in the NFL. Also, Back Your Play, new episode dropping tomorrow. Myself and Lloyd Vance. That'll air Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 12 on NY48 WWON. So definitely keep the engagement coming on that. And your support and kind words are greatly appreciated. Everyone have a wonderful Sports Wednesday. Back in the saddle tomorrow, 4 to 6, right here. Don't go anywhere. On Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.